In the last lecture, we adjusted the logo to look good in both the toolbar and the side drawer. Now let's adjust the navigation items too. Right now, navigation items, especially the single items here, are only styled to look good on desktop devices. That's of course the issue. On mobile devices, we still have that desktop look, but instead I want to have some items which simply sit beneath each other and which are not having this border at the bottom and so on. So we have to adjust the navigation items. And I will do this with media queries in the navigation item CSS file. So here, I want to write this in a mobile first way. So my base classes should be for mobile devices. And then I'll add media queries to make it look good on bigger devices too. So to achieve this, let's first of all add these desktop device media queries, or this single media query it actually is. I'll write media and then min width. For me, the cutoff point here will be 500 pixels, but of course you can choose a different one. I'll now copy all the existing CSS classes into that media query because we did write for desktop before, so we definitely want to use these classes for broader devices. And now I want to adjust these base classes to look good on mobile. This, for example, includes to have a margin of 10 pixels from top and bottom and 0 to top and right, so that there is some spacing between my links. I also want to set the width now to 100%, but not the height. The height should be only taking the height it needs from a text perspective. And the display doesn't have to be flexed. The display can be block here. And I also don't need align items for that reason. Now for a given link, the color should not be white because the background of the side drawer is white. I want to use a brown color here, and I will use 8F5C2C, the brown color we used before. Text decoration, of course, still is none. The height is not 100% though, but the width is. I also want to make sure that box sizing is border box, so we'll leave that, but I don't need the padding, I don't need the border bottom. This can all go, and display can still be set to block though. Now for active items, I don't want to set the background color to brown. I want to set it to this blue color instead. Not the background color, excuse me, the color, so the text color. And I'll get rid of background color and border bottom. I don't want to have any of that. And as always, you're of course free to adjust this to a way you find to look nicer. So these are my mobile styles. Now let's throw out any duplicate styling setups we have in mobile and desktop. For example, box sizing border box. We already defined this in mobile. We don't need to redefine it here because media queries, of course, are merged with the original classes. So whatever we set up here is generally kept, and then we can override selected properties, but box sizing doesn't need to be overwritten because we want to use the same value. I will use the same values here, but I'll set the width to auto here to not use a width of 100%, which I did set up in the mobile settings though. I'll also override the other settings. So this looks good to me. For a selected link here, I now want to set the color to white. So here it is brown, it should be white for me. Text decoration none is already set up in the mobile settings. Height and padding, that's important for me. Border bottom is important. Box sizing and display, we got that set up here in the mobile settings already, so we can get rid of it down here. Then for hovering and active links, everything needs to be set up because we have a totally different style for mobile links. Let's now save this and have a look at it. It's looking good, but they're still sitting next to each other. The reason for this is that our navigation items, the unordered list which wraps the links, there we're using Flexbox, and that leads to the items sitting next to each other by default. Isn't a problem. We just need to add a media query here too, with min width 500 pixels. And in there, I'll now set up my navigation items class, and I will set the flex flow to row here, because keep in mind, this is the media query for desktop devices, so there they should sit next to each other. But for mobile devices, I will actually set a new flex flow of column so that they sit beneath each other. Now if we save this, we see the items are indeed stacked on top of each other. On bigger screens, we still have the old look. We also get a couple of issues here. By the way, the distorted burger when switching is only due to the switching. Once you reload and load the app as the user would see it, it's looking fine. But we got issues here. For example, the navigation items are also visible on the toolbar on smaller screens. And of course, that should not be the case. I don't want to have the navigation items in the toolbar on smaller screens. I have the side drawer for that. I also want to have a little bit more spacing between the logo and my navigation items here on mobile. To fix this, I'll go back to my application, and there in the side drawer where I include the logo and the navigation items, I'll first of all add some margin to the bottom on the logo so that we have some spacing to the navigation items which are below it, maybe 32 pixels. So that should look better, yeah. And to remove the navigation items in the toolbar, we actually need to add a new helper CSS class, which I'll add to the wrapping element. I'll add it, and I'll add it in a media query. So this media query will now check if the maximum width is 499 pixels. So if we are on a mobile device. Then I'll add my desktop only CSS class, and there I will set the display to none. I don't have this class for the default case, so for devices which are broader than 500 pixels, but that basically means that it takes the default styling, which is display block, and therefore it will be visible. So I only override this for small devices. Now I can use this new class in the toolbar though, and can add it here to the nav item, to the nav element. I can use classes desktop only, and now on smaller devices, the navigation items should disappear, and they do. We see the logo here, but I think that looks quite nice, so maybe we'll leave that here. Now with that we got a side drawer which looks better. It would look even better if we would have a backdrop and if we could dynamically open and close it. These are the steps we'll work on next.